You don't know the art of bodybuilding, and by the time I'm finished, you're going to be able to build the best body you ever could. We moved away from physical culture and became the toxic sport of bodybuilding. Professional bodybuilders and influencers have no idea, they know nothing about the secrets of what it takes to put together a great physique. You can perform a simple test to find out the core training principles that I used to build a career-defining body before I even stepped into a gym. You will discover why you haven't learned the art of bodybuilding and why you will pivot by the end of this film. Bodybuilding should be a health discipline and an aiding longevity, not simply about building the biggest muscles. Bodybuilding was never about size. When physical culture became bodybuilding, we lost the health aspects of physical culture. People started looking for shortcuts so they continue their vices, smoking, drinking, and taking drugs. The health aspects of the sport became a toxic lifestyle of competitors eating ridiculous amounts of food, taking dangerous concoctions and drugs and compounds of stuff that they knew nothing about just for the sake of getting bigger, and bigger and bigger and bigger, ultimately less aesthetic. Bodybuilding is rooted in remaining out of hospital and staying healthy and building muscle for a clean, tapered, aspirational physique. In modern bodybuilding, someone dies every day. Modern bodybuilding is a dangerous sport. It's toxic and causes significant harm to your long-term well-being. It's simply unhealthy. Take Rich Piana, for example. He won the Tournament of Champions. He was a great Californian bodybuilder. Shortly, I'm going to show you one of his workouts, which is incredible for putting on a lot of size on your arms. But even though it's a great arm workout, it doesn't mean that the rest of what he was doing was any good. He died at 46. On the flip side, you have Paul C. Bragg, who died at 97 years of age in a water skiing accident while his 30-year-old girlfriend sat on the beach watching him. Paul C. Bragg also held the world chin-up record at 87 years of age. A great aesthetic physique is the side effect of being healthy and following the tenets of physical culture as it used to be. If you're taking huge dosages of steroids, you're not healthy. If you're drying out by significantly reducing the amount of water you're drinking, it is a dangerous practice. And the driest you're ever going to get is a corpse. It was about proportions, shape, grooming, creating the illusion of aesthetics, classic bodybuilding. There are bodybuilding divisions and there are training systems. The divisions are based on age, height, and weight. And the classic division is based on a height to weight ratio. Some federations only care about your height, while some care about the weight. Some care about both, and some we still don't know because they're so confusing. These divisions skew things as some of the competitors benefit from these restrictions. When there were no height or weight restrictions, competitors simply competed on aesthetics. Your overall look defined the winning physique in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't about size, it was about the art of the illusion and how you presented yourself that gave you the winning edge. Flavio Baccianini was the perfect example of someone with great proportions. At 4'11", this guy beat much bigger competitors on conditioning, aesthetics, and his shape. Lou Ferrigno, on the other hand, at over 300 pounds, became the biggest bodybuilder in the history of bodybuilding, and he was never able to get it together because there was too much room for error. However, in the 70s, when he was much more aesthetic and lighter, he looked fantastic. He was never able to get it together again because he was allowed to look like this. You have to ask yourself, why do you want this? Is this about looking good, or is it about looking big? Big competitors with large waistlines are not good looking to the general public. The general public lost interest in bodybuilding decades ago as size became the defining characteristic. Chasing size becomes a game where you end up in a wheelchair after winning 8 Mr. Olympia titles. You have to seriously ask yourself, do you want to look good and have great health as you get into old age? Do you want to master the art of bodybuilding the same way Arnold Schwarzenegger did? Which training methodology do you use? Dorian Yates is good at one system. It's certainly not the best system. Arnold certainly doesn't do it. But Frank Zane and Boyako are proponents of both systems. Yoga and Pilates movements get the spinal fluid, the synovial fluid moving, which rejuvenate the whole body and are good for all the joints of the body. If Ronnie Coleman did this, he would be walking again, the same way Tony Bartholomew did, who was actually worse than Ronnie. The reality is, there is no system. There is a lifestyle, physical culture. I'll show you the exercises I did at 17 before I ever stepped into a gym or won a state title. Most of the time, I didn't even know what sets and reps were. I am John Torelli. I am not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not Dorian Yates. I have never won a Mr. Olympia title, yet a lot of people would prefer to look like me and not them. Neither of them have my waistline. Neither of them have my shape, and neither of them can match my signature poses. Why did they use Eugene Sandow for the Mr. Olympia trophy? He hadn't won many titles. He was an entertainer, and he was very special for being a pioneer. All I ever wanted to do was win Mr. Universe, and I've done it twice. For me, it was always about health, lifestyle, pleasure, and building my body using the tenets of physical culture. I built it at home with hardly any weights. I already had a great physique before I ever went to the gym. I've spent my entire life, over 50 years, experimenting, learning, trying every conceivable diet and training system, talking to exercise physiologists to find out what to do, talking to surgeons to find out what not to do. I have dedicated my life to this. I have researched how the whole system of the body works. I have come up with customized exercise machines. I've developed exercises that no one else knows about. I have done things that simply have not been available to the general public. I have developed supplements and protein recipes that work with my training methods to better my health and my gut issues. And Joe Weider thought I was nuts because I didn't sign with him. I never did what I was told or did things the way others do. I found my way through experimentation, trial and error. I came from a fat Italian family, yet I built a physique that everyone wanted to emulate. It's not about genetics. What does this mean for you? I am your shortcut. You won't have to spend 50 years to find out what works, because I've done that for you. I'm going to give you the best exercises to perform that will fundamentally change your physique for the better. I'm going to give you the tools that you need to change your lifestyle and improve your health. Think about this. Can you actually suck in your waistline below your rib cage so that it doesn't protrude? Try this longevity test. Leaning backwards, pointing your hands towards the ground. See if you can do this for 30 seconds. You want to put your body in a position, bending backwards, where it actually causes the synovial fluid to flow. This movement helps release it. And as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to do. And that's when you're going to need it more than ever before. Once the synovial fluid starts flowing, it helps every part of your body. And if you don't do it, you're going to be hunching forward. You're going to be suffering your spine, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys. You're going to be in trouble. Here's another test you can do. Find a safe place to hang with your feet off the ground and hang for 15 seconds. If you can work your way up to 2 minutes, you'll be Superman. This is traction. It helps release synovial fluid. It's good for your shoulders. It definitely helps with your back. And most importantly, it gives you super grip strength. If you can't do this next one, you've got a serious problem. You've got to be able to balance on one foot. This will test your pelvic floor muscles. You've got to be able to do this for 30 seconds. And this is the final test. Take a tape measure, measure your waistline. And if that waistline measurement is more than half of your height, you've got health problems on the horizon. So the more you age, the more you're going to have signs of sarcopenia. So you're not going to have a huge physique, but that's not important. It's important that you actually have muscle size as you get older. So the best time to start is right now, because there's a good chance that you failed at least one of these tests. When I started working out, I knew absolutely nothing about physical culture. I didn't know what sets and reps were. When I saw prone bench press 4 times 12 in Ironman, to my way of thinking, that just meant 48 times. So that's what I did. I started doing a huge amount of repetitions and calisthenics around the house, pressing the coffee table with a close grip. Again, thinking I needed a bench to press. Remember, I was 12. My start in physical culture was purely through experimentation and improvisation. I improvised my own equipment by using bricks and a metal bar. I didn't use sets and reps. I basically used purely time under tension and gleaned bits of information from magazines. And oh, look at this. A bull worker demonstrated by Dave Prowse, who was Darth Vader in Star Wars. Wow! I begged my parents for 2 years to get me one of these. They had them in Chapman Sports Store, and they also had Weider protein. You'd be surprised how much of my physique I built using one of these. I stumbled onto calisthenics and time under tension by watching TV and listening to music. I spent a long time under tension, sometimes squatting for 5 minutes where I couldn't walk for the next 2 weeks. I also used hack squats, which was invented by George Hackenschmidt, and I used a method that I copied from Steve Reeves, who used to hook it on the back of his belt. And because I used light weights, there were no injuries. I later used the same style of training with Serge Nubret, who was the French bench press champion. That was my next lesson in intensity, using light weights. He trains with light weights, baby, and he had me struggling with my light warm-up weights. My chest was so sore, I couldn't hug my girlfriend for days. However, I suggest this Larry Scott dip exercise, which I've customized and do with a pulley, 1 or 2 hands at a time, with a lightweight baby. And it ain't nothing but a peanut. Larry Scott was the first Mr. Olympia, and he happened to be drinking beer with Joe Weider, and it was called Olympia, and that's how it got its name. He retired when Sergio Oliva came to prominence. Sergio won the Olympia 3 times, and when he competed in the Pro Mr. Universe, he lost. The biggest mistake people make in building muscle is going ballistic, throwing weights around. On top of old injuries, it makes it worse than smoking. Lifting heavy weights is not the best way to make gains. I found lifting light weights with the right momentum and the right amount of repetition not only more difficult, but far superior than lifting heavy weights. Having said that, you can use heavy weights with the right amount of cheating and textbook form. The Weider cheating method is not about swinging and throwing weights around, no matter what anybody tells you. I did that and I paid the price big time. Leave your ego at the door. I got it right the first time, before I ever went to the gym. You will experience long-term injury and irreparable damage, and seriously affect your ability to function normally into old age. The art of bodybuilding is a look that you've created with a functional physique, when every part of the body is working the way that it should, the side effect of which is health and longevity. This is called cow pulls, which is a rowing exercise for the back, generally done backstage before they walk on stage. I combine this with radar pulls, which were invented by Piri Radar from the original Iron Man to expand your rib cage, and it's good for your lats, your posture, and your pectoral muscles. I combine these with the Wim Hof breathing technique to significantly increase my health through oxygenation. Earlier, I briefly demonstrated a technique of bending backwards on a fit ball, but this is a technique that was taught to me by Brian Lambert, who is a teacher of osteopathy, and this is one of his longevity techniques that is used throughout his life. He was one of the world's strongest men for his weight. He is currently 90 years of age and is the father of a 5-year-old daughter. This greatly increases flexibility and the release of synovial fluid, but you need to be well hydrated in order for this technique to work well. If you're drying out, this won't work. While I'm hanging, this is not only good for my grip strength, but it's also activating my latissimus dorsi by doing scapular rotations like this. Continuing to hang, I do these by bringing your knees up as close as possible to the chest without swinging. This is for the abdominal area. While continuing to hang and develop your grip strength, you're bringing your feet up to your bum. One of the best ways to work your calves is by doing body weight calf raises with 1 or 2 legs on steps while doing static holds in between. This is called the Pilates bridge. You're laying on your back with both feet flat on the ground. You're coming up into a bridge, lifting 1 foot off the ground and balancing on 1 leg, activating the buttocks and hamstrings of that side. Hold that for 20 seconds and then come back down and do the other leg. As a woman grows when she's pregnant, she separates the linea alba, creating one huge hernia. Bodybuilders do the exact same thing when expanding their waistlines. In order to correct this problem, you need to start with a series of exercises, starting with this one. Doing this will significantly tighten your stomach muscles. This will significantly tighten your stomach muscles. Please don't do this if you're pregnant. Remember Rich Piana? Everybody thought his arms were full of synthol. A close friend of mine said that he in fact went to Mexico and got implants put in, but he didn't really need them. He knew how to train. This is one of the exercises he performed. This not only works the biceps, it works the brachialis muscles that are between the bicep and the tricep, which he recommends doing for 3 sets of 60 reps, supersetted with lying dumbbell extensions. I do it with bricks because it enhances my grip more so than holding dumbbells. Doing supersets like this, going from the first exercise to the second exercise with no rest, really enhances the pump. He does this for 100 repetitions. So this exercise here works the tricep muscles, the long head of the triceps, and it actually forms a complete workout. This is how I built my career-defining body before I stepped into the gym and stopped most of my progress. This is the art of bodybuilding. But it means nothing at all. You can forget everything that I've said. It means absolutely nothing. You can disregard it all because you're not going to achieve 80% of your success in the art of bodybuilding without the mysterious magic of nutrition. You can get a head start on johntorelli.com.